Bonjour, bonjour, everybody. Bonjour from Paris on Sunday evening. I'm right outside of Saint Eustache. Gorgeous church. Give everybody a minute to get in here as I'm inhaling the lovely smell of fish. Right outside the church here, as you know, this is Leal, this area. So it used to be that what was called the Belly of Paris by Emile Zola. And so this is where they had the huge markets where everybody would come and get food for the restaurants, for the homes, everything. And right when I came here today, they were just taking apart the open air market that went down the street on Rue Montmartre. And right about here is, I think, where they had the fish guy set up. And it is right, let me tell you. But they've cleaned it up. So we will jump in because there's a lot to show you today, and I'm hoping we get back into the church because it is this weekend. Why I picked this today is because it is the 800th anniversary of the Saint Eustache Church, and this is what they are celebrating this weekend. So it was in 1223 that the Sainte Agnes Church that once stood here was opened, so 800 years ago. And so they picked this weekend to celebrate that. And there's been all sorts of events. There was a theater performance on Friday night. Yesterday, there were some tours. There was a puppet show theater event. And then today, there was like a cocktail mixer, which I did not see. And then there is a concert going on right now until 4:30 p.m. And when I was in there for the first 45 minutes of it, it was really amazing. And I'll post some videos afterwards. But when I left, it was basically when one person comes out of the church, one person can go in because it's so crowded. So I'm hoping that we will be cruise around the outside here for about a half an hour and then head inside. And hopefully that is going to work. So we will jump in. So I am out here on the kind of the north side of the church. And you can see down this little alley right there, which is the Impasse Saint Eustache. You can see the north door of the church and kind of the transept. So this church doesn't technically really have a transept in the sense that like a Saint-Sulpice or Notre Dame does, but it is really amazing. And Saint Eustache was a saint that had a vision of a deer with a crucifix in his antlers. And if you look way up here, let's see if I could get in here. If I could get in all the way. I might not be able to see it very well. You guys see that? So it's up there. It's on top of each of the little pinnacle parts of the church on the north and south side, where you can see that. And this church is not only is it Renaissance style, but it is also Romanesque style. It's a little amalgamation of a lot of things. And it was Mr. Viollet-le-Duc, who I adore, who did Notre Dame in the 19th century. He criticized this church because it didn't really have one certain style. And the architects over time kind of just were practicing and playing and having a good time with it. What I love about that rose window is the hearts that are in there. And that is, they did that on purpose, but I love that. And you'll see them on the other side of the church as well. This door that's not open to the public to this weekend, on either side of it, and I'll kind of go in there a little bit. But you can see two of my favorites, the patron saints of Paris, and on this side. They're loading out, I think, some of the equipment that they've been using this weekend. But on the right side of the door up there, you see, guarding the door on the right is Saint Denis over there. And then if we could get here a little bit, you could see, hopefully you could see her, my girl, Saint Genevieve. Ah, look at this. She teeny. So she is right back here. So you can see her on the side. On the left is Saint Geneviève, and on the right is Saint Denis. And then that window there is the Annunciation. So you could actually kind of see it a little bit on the back, but it is a really amazing church. So the whole back part of the church, when we go on the other side, I'll show you. That was the original church of Sainte Agnes. And then it was Francois Premier, one of my favorites, had decided that he wanted to have a church, a new church built. And he wanted to have this be like his kind of glory and have all the things that he really loved on the church. And it changed the name to Saint Eustache, which was basically right when it opened 800 years ago, because they ended up having a relic of Saint Eustache. And there was held at the Basilique Saint Denis, that's up in the north of past Paris, and then they changed it and moved the relics of Saint Eustache down here to this church, and so they renamed it to Saint Eustache. And there's three things. There's only three things in the church that remain from that original church. One of which you can't see because it's in the crypt down below, but there's two things in the church that hopefully I could show you. So here is the Rue du Jour. And look, I love the old street sign behind that. But there's something really special on this street too. Straight ahead is the Bourse de Commerce, which is now the Pinot collection. So it's a museum. If you like contemporary art, that's a great place for you to go. If you don't, just go in at least to see the building and the dome because it's pretty amazing. This in here, which it's closed, it's been closed now for at least, I think, since COVID. But back there on the right is the basically the Law Museum, and it's really small and it's kind of it's just kind of put together, but it's really interesting. Like, they have the key to the cell where Marie Antoinette was kept, and it has newspaper covers of famous court cases like the Dreyfus affair, or Honoré Desiree Landru, who was the Bluebeard of Paris. They did two podcast episodes about last year. What do we have here? Maybe they'll come out. So here, of course, is the fireman, the pompier. But what's really cool about this is this lamp right here is one of the few remaining lamps. This is what used to be all over the city. You had those lamps that said pompier, but this is actually one of the few remaining, and it has been restored because when I came by here about a year ago, the glass was gone. I was quite upset. Ship Paris there. But I love coming back here because I think this is the coolest view of the church. And when we go on the other side, I'll tell you some other stuff about it. But it is really interesting because it's kind of it's almost like a three-layer cake. Hi, Doreen. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And you have this amazing little gate here. So this was a house that was dated back to, originally what was here went back to the 15th century, and it sat here behind the church, and the entire building was torn down, but they kept the gate entrance here, which is kind of cool. But you can look up there and see all the goodness. There is big differences between this and what you see at Notre Dame, as far as, like, if you see the flying buttresses up there, the shapes of them are very different. The flying buttresses of Notre Dame are very rounded, and these ones are kind of come to a peak, a rounded peak. So they just kind of were doing whatever they wanted on this. There's quite a few different architects over time that were involved in this. And it was Francois Premier. He did lay the very first stone here. But they had many people over time that never actually, you had architects working on this and they never saw it finished. So it was August 19th, 1532, when Francois Premier laid the first stone. And then it took until April 26th, my birthday, 1637, for the church to be consecrated. So well over 100 years. So you had multiple generations of families, men that were working on this church, the masons and the carvers and everyone working on this church that they never would see finished. So it would take three generations, which is just crazy to think of somebody who get to work on something and hoping to see it finished. So straight ahead is the Bourse, and on the left, that little tower the little tower that's there that kind of has almost like a bird cage on it. That is the only piece left of the palace that was here for Catherine de Medici, the nasty Catherine de Medici. She was here, and this is where she died. And the whole entire palace was torn down except for that column. And that column was made for her because she Nostradamus was one of her friends and one of her clairvoyants, and she really loved astrology and everything. And so she used to be able to go up in there and look at the sky, and that thing was covered for years since when I first came to Paris. And then it finally, when they opened the Bourse a few years ago, they opened that. You can hear them singing in there. And it's the Notre Dame Singers, which is just so amazing. Let me go back here a little. So this facade on the church was finally finished. Guess how many years it took to finish? Basically, from the 17th century until about 2 weeks ago. And you have it here. It's a very different facade from what you will see, at other churches. The South Tower was never finished, and the North Tower was, but everything on it has been restored. And so the first one that was here was built in the 15th century, and then in the 16th century they had to redo the whole thing because it started actually sinking. And then in the 18th century they had to rebuild it again, because in the 17th century, Colbert, Jean-Baptiste Colbert, who was a minister, a very powerful minister to Louis the 14th, he wanted two chapels. So right in here in the doors, they wanted two chapels put in. And so those chapels actually weakened the whole entire facade, and it started falling apart again. And then during the revolution, more damage happened to the church. It turned into the Temple of Agriculture, very fitting with the layout right next to it. But they ended up, this poor facade has gone through a lot. But now look at it. It's all done. It's brand spanking new, and it looks amazing. But this was in 1754. Philippe Egalité was the one who was a brother of Louis the 16th, which we talked a lot about the other day, or I guess a couple weeks ago. It's a bit chillier today, right now, this afternoon, than it was earlier today. But what I love about this church, and yesterday I came here because I just wanted to kind of get some pictures and do a little research. And they were doing a special tour. So they had a French tour, which I usually would just do because they don't usually offer English ones, and I could I could understand the French one. But they had an English one, and so I decided, I'm going to do that one because I will just get even more information. And I was the only person that showed up for it. And then this really lovely lady from Turkey walked in the door and joined it. So it was just the two of us with this gentleman originally from England that gave the tour, and it was fantastic because it was like our own little private tour. So of course, I asked a million questions. And the lady was really sweet. I was like, "You didn't know you were going to get two guides at the same time." But it was really fun and really fascinating. And he got this because we were by ourselves. And the French tour had like 60 people in it, and they were doing it on the microphone. So I was really happy that I did the French tour. So let's go up here a little bit higher, and I'll get killed by a skateboard. So here we are, and you can see just how big the church is. And it is in 3 layers. So it's like a wedding cake. You can see the lower level, the middle level, and then the upper level, which is called the clear story, because of the windows. There is 2 different sundials on here. You see the one there just to the left of the lower row of stained glass, and then one at the very top. And again, we have our deer with his crucifix and his antlers. These kids are falling. But this door is really great. And so this is the south portal. And the south portal is all in the Renaissance style. So the sculptures on it are really fascinating, and I'll get a little bit closer to it. But the south portal door was done in the 17th century, and then a lot of the sculptures had to be replaced in the 18th after the Revolution, so the very end of the 18th century. But you can see again, you can see those hearts up there, which I love. But you can see from this side, you can really see how that tower just stopped, much like Saint Sulpice, where the South Tower is not finished as well. And so this church, when it was Sainte Agnes, it really was kind of basically from this transept and back. It was a much, much smaller church. And they kept the church in place while they built this one. So what came first, what they did in starting in 1530 was straight ahead of us. So this is the south transept. So they started on the north transept first, and then did a few of those chapels that are just right by there to the right of the north transept as we're looking at it. That was first. And then over time, it would take about 10 years to do each little piece. And so one thing I asked him the other day is because, they're doing these things in the 16th century, and I'm going to get away from these loud skateboarders, but they're doing these things in the 16th century, and they don't have things like forklifts and if you've seen the movie Sabrina, you've seen this giant thing. But they didn't have forklifts. And so I was like, how did they build this stuff? And so he said they just would do one layer at a time. And this one, because it is set back, so they'd build this whole lower level, and then they'd use the upper part. Then they'd use the top of this to basically, station everything. And from the inside, you could really see how that worked. And then they would do the next one. But here you can see where you have those little kind of pinnacles, the little roofs that are underneath there with the shingles, and then underneath the buttresses, and the buttresses are very different than what you see on Notre Dame. But it is a really, I love this church. And so when I was here yesterday, of course they were selling a book, and it's this amazing book that they also have one. They do it for a bunch of churches in Paris or in France, and I also have the one for Notre Dame, and they're pretty expensive, but I literally couldn't give the lady my money fast enough. And it's good to buy it here because the money goes to the church. But it's this book that's gorgeous, huge table, so heavy as well, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And so I am now going to be obsessed with this one too. So I will definitely do a bunch more about this church because there's so many amazing elements in it. The chapels are gorgeous with all of the paintings, but look at the details on here. I think that saint there is like, boys on the skateboard, slow your roll, calm down, just telling them. And then, of course, the Virgin. But look at these. They look like little mermaid. She looks like a little mermaid. It's just the details on here, and you can see through here. Kind of could see the north transept windows. But the concert should be done in about 10 minutes, so we'll pop in there so you can kind of hear a little bit of it too. But they've been busy since 2010 doing restoration on this. The north and south transepts have been restored, and they're gorgeous on the inside. And then, of course, they did the facade. They also have a soup kitchen here that they've had since the 1990s. And so they do that every day of the week. People could come in here and get soup if they are in need of food. And then Leal with that ugly structure over there. How I feel about it. I think that's how most people feel about it. And under that is the Châtelet metro station, the bane of most of our existence when you live here, because you have to go through it. But it was so great. I talked to a couple of people at the church yesterday. It was really fun to do that. Bonjour. And got to get some information. So I'll come in here and let you guys kind of listen to it for about a few minutes. You guys can hear. Here, of course, is my favorite chapel. This is dedicated to Saint Andre, but it is actually, the window is more Saint Antoine, and this is the charcutière. This is dedicated to them. And if you remember, if you saw in my stories in November, I came here because on the weekend closest to Saint Antoine's feast day, they do a huge celebration in here. It's a 2-hour mass. It was freezing cold, but it's dedicated to the charcutière. and they come in, and then after the 2 hour mass, they have huge tables laid out with sliced meat and sandwiches with jambon and wine and everything. And I stayed for it. I froze to death so I could get that ham sandwich. Mhm. Might be just getting over with. But the chapels in here are absolutely gorgeous. Let's actually go this back way so we don't get run over. And I'll show you the Chapel of the Virgin. Here's a great little postcard. It's kind of a fun one. And then you have the Chapel of Colbert, which I will show you. So this back here is the Chapel of the Virgin. And these paintings back here were all done in the 19th century by Thomas Couture. And Thomas Couture, was a painter, but also a teacher, and Manet was one of his students. And then you have those great stained glass up here. The Virgin back there on the altar was done by Pigalle, who also did the one that's in Saint Sulpice. And took some clients last night. We did a de Chavot tour, and I took some clients that did Saint Sulpice, and I was so excited to see that the chapel of Joan of Arc is done. So I'll have to go in there and get some pictures of it. But this guy here is Colbert. I'll wait till they get done. Hi, Rox. So here is Colbert. He was the one that was the minister of finance, and he did all of these things for under Louis XIV. And he was the warden of the church here at Saint Eustache. And so this is where he's buried. This tomb was done by Crucifix, which it's amazing, and it could be actually in the Louvre. But it was saved by another one of my favorites, Mr. Alexandre Lenoir. He saved this from being destroyed, and then it returned back here to the church. There is a fourth piece that is missing from it, that he is supposed to be praying to an angel, but that is missing. We don't know where that is, but this is amazing because you have the two women here, and of course she's got money, coins, because he was Mr. Finance guy. Notre Dame du Paris, did you hear that? But this church, what's amazing about this church, it is the highest vaults in all the churches of Paris. Yeah, Sharon, this restoration in here it's phenomenal. This church is owned by the city of Paris. But when I was here yesterday, I bought the book, and then they shaked me down for some more money, but I was happy to give it to them because it is such a gorgeous church. But it is the church compared to Notre Dame. So Saint Eustache is 345 feet long, while Notre Dame is 394. And then this church is 144 feet wide, and Notre Dame is 157. But the vaults here are 110 feet high, and Notre Dame is only 95. So the vaults in here, everything is really amazing. When I was in here earlier, listening to the organ and then the music. I just was staring up at the ceiling and where all of these columns meet, and it's just gorgeous. These windows up above have always been clear, and so the clear story, and so they didn't have any glass in there. But this one, like the one that's here, these did have stained glass windows in them, but they were destroyed in the Revolution. And I asked yesterday if we knew what they looked like, and they said they didn't. And I asked if they'd be replaced, and they said no. But here, sadly, you can't see it very well in here because there's scaffolding and they're working on it. But you could tell it's funny. It's just like in Saint Sulpice, they did all of the south. They're doing all the south side chapels first, just like they're doing in this church. But back here, you have this piece by Keith Haring. And this is a contemporary piece, of course. And it's the life of Christ. And it was one of the very, very last pieces that he did. And he died in 1990. And then it was given to the church because Saint Eustache was a church that during the AIDS epidemic, when that was just in the late 80s and early 90s, Saint Eustache put itself out there as a church that people would come to if people were dying because unfortunately, and a lot of young men were dying from AIDS. The church would come to the hospital. They'd give them their last rites. They would bring the families here. They would hold their funerals here. When a lot of churches and a lot of people didn't want to have anything to do with it. So Keith Haring wanted to give this piece to Saint Eustache. And so it was one of the very last things he did, and it was given here just before he died, and it was not placed in the church till after he passed away. So all of these little chapels, and they're different. Like when you have the Saint Sulpice and even Notre Dame, you could go into the chapels. They're much deeper. These ones are actually very shallow. This is the chapel of one of my favorites, Saint Louis. And that stained glass depicts the education of Saint Louis. He's in another one in here too. But that's him, just a cute little young whippersnapper. And there's his mother, Blanche de Cassis. So this one, the door's open. So this one here, this was the personal chapel of Philippe Galité. And that he would be able to sit up there where those windows are open and he could watch the service without having to mingle with the riffraff. But he would be right up here. And so a lot of these chapels long ago a lot of them looked like this. So they would have the wood and they'd be covered up. And they'd still have the amazing windows in there. So in the church, the original church was basically right behind us. So when it was first being built under Francois Pignet and his plans that he wanted to do, right where we are standing. So these chapels I just showed you were the first. So those are the oldest ones. Let's go back to the 16th century, 1530. And then they did right from here straight over, because back here they still had the Church of Sainte Agnes. So they were still using the parishioners were able to still use this church. Oh, standing ovation. Can you guys hear me okay? Hey, Danielle. Look at this. So this is a great church. You get a lot of light. Look at all that light coming in, showing this. Thank you. So they also called it, so it's funny, the Notre Dame, the roof, as we know, was called the forest because it was the amount of trees it took to fill a forest, to fill the roof. And this one is also the interior. This can also be called a forest because you have these 48 columns and they're like looking up at like massive trees. It's almost like you're in a redwood forest here because they're so huge. So, but over here, I told you earlier, there was three things from the 13th century church, and two of them I'll show you. Hopefully we get to the other side and show you. But one of them is right down here. So this whole bas-relief that's on the bottom here, this part of it goes back to the 13th century. Look at that. The touch it even. That is 13th century. And the thing about a church, if this was in the Louvre, you couldn't touch it, but here you could be sneaky, but don't touch too much. And then what I love, when I came here to the Charcutier Mass, I sat over here in the corner, which is really smart because right over here is where they put all the sandwiches and the wine. So when it got close, I was like the first one in there. Wasn't messing around. Waited years to get in here. But look down here, you have, because were people buried in the church, and there was also the cemetery that was near here. And so these are actual former tombstones and grave markers, many of which were in the church, but they're here in the floor. So hopefully they had the backside of this blocked off, but look at how all of this has been restored. And all of the paintings, most of the paintings in here are going to be 18th century. But back here, what's really cool is they have, if I could try to see a spot to show you the stained glass that is over the altars, in the back over the choir. Oh, you kind of look at, because everybody's mingling around. You could usually never walk up on the altar. Look at shh. Usually you can't ever come up here because it's reserved during the ceremonies, during Mass. But look at this. How beautiful is this? And the relic of Saint Eustache is right there in the front. Look at how beautiful this is. So I'll back up a little and show you the stained glass, but there's 11 stained glass up there. And they're really cool. If maybe I could try to zoom in on it here. Because if you look up there, so not only do you have this amazing architecture in here, but look at how it is carried on. You see the arches in the stained glass? I just love it. It's like this church has just like endless layers. And as you look, you just find more and more. But these are all done by Antoine Soulignac. He did all of the stained glass that's up there on the clear story level, 11 of them. And they have different saints, including Saint Eustache, of course. I love that you could come up here. So sneaky. It's a good times to do this. So let's go back down to the side. They had the back behind the music blocked off, but we'll see if we could push our way through. So look at it. So all of the guys, the choir, they were all wearing these like black and charcoal turtlenecks, and I'll have to show you what I'm wearing. I thought maybe I should jump on up there and sing a little ditty with them. I think they'd notice. I'd have to take my red coat off. So see, I would love it if they could bring all of these someday back, the stained glass, or if we knew what they look like. But just like Notre Dame, some idiots in the 18th century decided to whitewash the church. So they painted over with white paint. Can you imagine all of this? Every single part of it was painted over with white paint, which is horrific. A horrific thought. So this one here that's really, really dark, sadly, so dark. This one in here is some of the Notre Dame singers. So this one is so incredibly dark, so you can't really see it. But I love this one because the paintings in here were done by Leon Wisnet, and he is, guess what? There's a connection in every podcast I do. He is a cousin of Delacroix. And then you have the story of Christ here in this window. Stained glass. The stained glass window here is also amazing. They do have some plaques on some of these chapels, not all of them, but some. This painting back here was done by Rubens, his atelier. I think I'm going to have to swing around the other way. But this is another one of those little chapels of how it used to be. And this chapel here was the Chapel of Redemption. But this is where, during the Revolution, prior to the Revolution, that Princess Lamballe, she came here to pray for Mass. So we'll see. I don't think I'll be able to sneak back. We'll go around this way. But I came here because when I came to Paris for in 2019, I got here 4 days after the fire of Notre Dame, which I was devastated about, and that Sunday was Easter. So that Sunday was Easter, and so instead of Notre Dame, they did the whole city's Easter celebration here. And so the mayor was here, all the dignitaries were here, the pompiers were here, the archbishop at the time was here as well. It was very exciting. But it was really cool because then as you left, they gave everybody a little candle, and on it said, Easter 2019, Saint Eustache. And then when I came yesterday, I talked to this woman that worked here at the church for a long time, and then she gave me a little candle, and it says 800th anniversary. So I was really excited about that. And I will not light them. Somebody tried to light them one day, and I got very upset. Those candles, the church candles burn they're not great wax, so they burn very quickly. So here you can see, there's that window that we saw on the outside of the Annunciation. And then you have the rose window up there with the hearts. You can see the hearts. I love it. And then you have these windows, have the apostles. And it goes around onto this side as well. But I really love the chapels on the other side. So let me go over there and show you. If I could get through here. They put all these benches in here are new. And you can see the little antler with the crucifix. So Sainte Agnes is still here some places. She is up here at the top of the seats. And then you have the organ. And so the organ that used to be here, there was a horrible fire. The gentleman that was working on the organ to restore it knocked over his oil lamp and went into the casing and basically completely burned the whole entire thing. So that was destroyed. And so this one here was moved over from Saint-Sulpice. And Saint-Sulpice got a new one. But the whole casing of it was done by Victor Battard, who was an architect under Haussmann and Napoleon III. And so what is fun about that is that he also had done he's the one that did the amazing Leal, all of those great, the kiosks that they use there. And so then he did all this, and he also did this pulpit that's right here. All of these chairs were turned around facing the other direction. So they pretty quickly flipped everything around. So let me show you over here. But you just have a little bit. So everybody really criticized it. And it's funny because, back then, which is still now, I think now maybe, especially in Europe, you have an appreciation of all different styles of architecture. But, at some point, there are people now that want to get rid of all of this stuff because they like the ugly, contemporary, boxy things. So you can tell how I feel about that. So, but at one point, they thought, this is the flamboyant Gothic and Renaissance is so passe. We don't want to have this anymore. So let's just get rid of it or let's change it. But luckily, there's always people, especially in France and Europe, that want to stay with this style. This side, these chapels get even smaller on this side. But look at just all of the details in here. So be prepared now for me to inundate you with details of every chapel and the stories of the stained glass and everything, because even though I have zero time to have another obsession, I will have another obsession because I got this book. I'll see if I can show you on the table. But look at just all of the painting and the sculpture and everything that's in this church. Saint Cécile. Yeah, I mean, just look at all like the painting on all of the columns and everything in here. But here's like, this is such a great because of the light. You have all the light from the clear story. Look at just all of this on the ceiling and just how all of these come up and the, ugh. And they just the other day, just this week, they took down part of the scaffolding at Notre Dame on the spire. So my beloved rooster is free to the world now to be seen. Okay, so this is this window that I love. Here's my candle that I put, the little red one, because should have mentioned this beginning, but today I wanted to dedicate this tour of this church, especially since it's flamboyant Gothic, to my dear friend Philip, who passed away 6 years ago on this date. Far too young, a very aggressive cancer, and I miss him dearly. I wish that I knew he had him here today because he was an art major, and now I know so much about art that I wish I would love to share it with him and talk to him about it. But look at this amazing window there. On the left hand side, you see Saint Louis clutching his crown of thorns as always. And then on the right, you have Jeanne d'Arc. But look at how gorgeous this is. And then you have Mary up there in majesty. All the details, all of this. And the candles. And then, of course, you have Jeanne d'Arc over here again. And this plaque here is about the consecration of the church, which was done again on my birthday, 1637. Mentions it there. But look at all of this in here. It's just so. And there's the organ. And then all of these doors. So all of this has been covered up, but now the door and the paintings, everything free to be seen by anyone. And all of the stuff this weekend has been free to the public. So there are concerts in here all the time because they do the organ auditions, and you go come in here for free and sit here, excuse me, and listen. Oh, that's nice and warm heater. Well, look at all of this in here. Love it. Such a gorgeous church. I love all the chapels, and there's so many chapels in here, a lot more than most churches. Too bad you could see that it's so dark over there. Thank you, Angela. Yeah, if you could hit the like button and even make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and share it with people. But look at how this, oh, so gorgeous. But here in the middle of this door, it's always kind of hard to see because it's so backlit. But we'll see if I could get over here amidst all the people. But that statue that's right here on the door, if you could kind of see it right there in between, that is also from the original church. So that's also from the 13th century. And here is, this is the book I got. Look at how amazing this is. That's the one. But you could also get some perfume if you need to. It is also 69 euros. But let me take you down here on the side. This painting here, up above, is of the martyrdom of Saint Eustache. So that's right here. But look at that view. It is, let me take you back to the back real quick because I'll show you when I bring people in here. I make them all stop and look at this one spot. Marla, I had to get another bookshelf. It's a shorter one. And I thought, oh, this is great. I could have my Notre Dame books together and my Van Gogh exhibit books together. It's already full. It was full within as soon as I put it together. And now they're just stacked up everywhere. So by this time next year, I need another apartment with a 2-bedroom, one for my office and my bookshelf. So this is this secret little place that they don't let us go. But up here, like when I came here for the chocotier, they went up in that little, look at how cute that is. Look at that little, oh, love it. Here's the Pigalle again. But it's this view right here. It's this view from the back when you have the chandelier in here and everything. It's just the best. And up on this side. That was me that made that noise, by the way. Look at this. Usually this painting's not here. Look at that. I mean, come on. Just gorgeous. But I forgot to show you on the side. I want to show you this painting that was done by Rubens because it's pretty stunning. In this one? Yes. Okay, so this painting was done by Rubens as well. And this is supposed to be the moment after, and I'm not Catholic. We weren't raised Catholic or religious. Everything I know about religion is from art. But this is supposed to be the scene of the pilgrims of Amos. Not really sure how to say that. But this is when they sit down with this man and they're breaking bread. Hey, I didn't know we could go in there. They're breaking bread with him, eating with him. And this is the moment that they realize that it is Christ. Because if you look at the tablecloth, you see the tablecloth looks like it's blowing in the wind. And then Christ is looking up. And then they look so surprised. And that is because they realize he's looking up to the Holy Father. And the ghost, the spirit, is what is coming in and blowing the tablecloth. Isn't that the coolest? And that's Rubens. And of course, there's red. So one thing I've noticed about Rubens, and I can't really find an answer, and I've asked my art master friends, and they were like, I don't know either. But for some reason, Rubens, after a certain period of time, puts large swaths of red fabric in his paintings. So if you look at the Medici cycle, which is in the Louvre, that's my favorite. Every one of those has these big, huge sheets of red fabric, whether it's a dress or a hanging in the back or a curtain. It's on everything. And this one has it as well. But isn't that just the coolest? Love it. So it's such a gorgeous, gorgeous church. And you got, you put a chandelier in this and look, it's straight there. Look at those layers. Is the chandelier, you have the stained glass all the way out there, you have a statue, you have candles. It doesn't get much better than that. But you can see from here, you can see up to those windows a little bit better again. Yeah, it's really great to come into any of the churches, especially if they are keep an eye on the concert schedules for the churches. So Saint Sulpice, Saint Germain des Prés, all of those have choir or concerts from time to time. And if you go during the day, that's usually when they're rehearsing. And you could go in there, just sit there for free and listen. And it's absolutely lovely. I love it. Oh, look at that. Oh, so gorgeous. So I am going to leave it there with you guys today. And I'm actually going to walk around in here for a little bit and maybe leave another little candle for my sweet friend Philip. But here you go. So I am going to jump off of here, but thank you guys so much. And next weekend, I'm going to do another one next weekend. And next weekend, we're going to do it all about Louis Visconti. And I'm going to take you from the right bank to the left bank in an hour and show you many of the amazing monuments and statues that he created. And of course, what he did for the Louvre, because everything's about the Louvre. But if you guys want to if you want to send a little tip at all, you can send it to Claudine at ClaudineHemingway.com on Venmo or PayPal or Zelle, for me to buy some wine on the way home because it's cold. But thank you guys so much. And maybe I'll try to turn this around for a second. Say hi. Maybe. There we are. Hi. So thank you guys so much. And you can see now, somebody's jumping in my video. But look at that. Gorgeous. Love it. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Tomorrow, we have another episode, like the fourth episode in the story of the Mona Lisa. And then we're going to take a break from her for a little bit, but we're going to come back because I'm not done. That's what happens when I research something for 5 months. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. And I was very excited about sharing all of this with you. And there's going to be even more that I want to share with you guys in here. And so we'll do that again and try to pick some times when I could come in here and just really go to details with each of the chapels when we have some really good light as well, because it is pretty dark in some of these. But happy 800th birthday. I mean, what can you say happy 800th birthday to in America? Nada. Pretty awesome. So I love that. I love that about here. But look at the details here. It just doesn't. But I'm going to stay here so I get some more pictures. But I will also post it. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, and I will post some in the stories of the Notre Dame choir singing today, which was pretty amazing. But thank you guys all so much for being here, and I will see you next week.